lately we have seen a lot of players moving across to Saudi Arabia in big money transfers, and a lot of them leaving the Premier League. And that got me thinking, for some reason, what would world football look like if Scotland had all of the money? So, using the Football Manager 2023 editor, I gave every single team in the Cinch Premiership a bank balance of £1 billion. I gave them rich benefactor chairmans that will get involved and keep supplying the money, and I gave each club the reputation of 10,000 because, well, what does it matter what the reputation of the club is, the size of the club, when you've got that much money, as we are seeing in real life right now. And for the start of the simulation, I set each club's transfer budgets to 150 million with 1 million spare in the wage budget with a maximum wage of £300,000. Each Cinch Championship club then has £800 million in the bank and transfer budgets of 100 million to start simulation with 800 grand left a week in the wage budgets. Cinch League 1 clubs are then worth £650 million with £75 million in the transfer budgets and £600,000 to spend per week. It's ridiculous, I know, but it will be very fun to see how these clubs spend their money. League 2 teams also worth £500 million, £50 million to spend in transfer budget, and for some reason the wage budgets didn't carry over for the simulation no matter what I tried, but they've got a lot of money anyway, so they'll be okay. And to give you a little taster, while Celtic still won the league in the first season of simulation, I can't see it lasting very long because teams are spending big. Celtic spent the most in the first year on Emiliano Martinez. They weren't happy with Joe Hart, he wasn't good enough, so they went, World Cup winner, come over here for potentially 103 million quid. It's mental, it really is. Ivan Toney has pitched up at Motherwell, they ended up finishing second. Mark Guehi, whatever his name is now at St Mirren, 57 million quid, potentially rising to 69. Dundee United have had some goalkeeping problems, so they've got Gregor Kobel in for potentially 59 million quid. He is very good, I'll give it to them. So teams have been spending large. Danny Olmo now at Rangers, Oliver Skipp. Aberdeen spent their money on Oliver Skipp. They never do well in these simulations, and I reckon they won't, even with all this money. I bet you they'll spend it stupidly. As we can see, Oliver Skipp, 53 million quid. Not worth it. Danny Olmo was bought for cheaper. Mental chat, absolutely mental chat. Jefferson Lerma's here. Nico Williams has been bought from Athletic Bilbao. Alex Ramiro, the long-term replacement for Craig Gordon, Hearts have been looking for. It's got bonkers, it's got wild, and loads of money has been spent. Millions, probably billions. In fact, I would say Ryan Fraser's even ended up at St Johnstone, so even they're getting in on the act. It was over 11 million spent on him. So much money has been spent. I want to see how well things will go for teams in Europe after all of this has been sorted after a few years. Nat Phillips is here. We got Rhys Williams in real life. Well, we'll take him, I suppose. It's carnage. It's absolute carnage. I mean, Tom Cantwell's been sold to Inverness for 1.7 million. Clearly didn't want him. They bought James Forrest as well. Let's have a look at the Championship. Eric Ten Hag is now manager of Dundee. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Inverness won the league. There's been lots of money spent even at this level. I think mainly by Inverness, however. Stuart Armstrong's at Morton. Okay. Angus Gunn, Hayden Hackney at Inverness. No wonder Inverness won the league. They have Lyndon Dykes, they have James Forrest and Todd Cantwell. Scott McKenna's pitched up at Wraith. Tom Lawrence has dropped down to Inverness. Queen's Park has spent nearly £1 million on Austin Samuels, and Lawrence Shankland is at Dundee, having previously played for Dundee United. Kemar Roof, Anthony Ralston, also at Inverness. So we're starting to see Premiership quality players trickling down to the Championship already because, well, Premiership teams are bringing in the likes of Nico Williams and Danny Olmo. But as you can see, Inverness won the league. That's how the league table looked. Queen's Park got relegated to League 1, which was won by Queen of the South. I don't think too much money will have been spent at this level, but let's have a little look anyway. Well, there's teams in the third tier spending hundreds of thousands of pounds. Well, there was one team doing that. It was Louis Aperi going to Alloa. It'll start to trickle down, I imagine. He's played in the Premiership, he's played in the Cinch Championship, he's in League One now. You're starting to see players trickling down. And anyone else exciting here? Bruno Lage is manager of Falkirk. He previously managed Benfica and Wolves. This is going to be interesting. Very, very fun. Robbie Nielsen's now at East Fife. Okay. The league was won by Dumbarton, however. It'll be interesting to see how much, if any, money has really been spent here. East Fife have been relegated out of League 2 with Robbie Nielsen now as their manager, formerly of Hearts and Dundee United, Brechin replacing them. And Brechin don't have any money. East Fife will have had 50 million to spend in transfer budget, and they didn't do any of it. I don't know why none of them have done it. I suppose maybe attracting players to the reputation of the league might be a problem. I'm not sure. It's Carnage. Did they spend any money? Anyone? Not really. Okay. Now, Ivan Toney was clearly a good acquisition for Motherwell, as in the first season they have gone from just being mid-table, average, might reach a semi-final every now and then in Scotland, to winning the Scottish Cup. And the League Cup was won by Hearts. Sammy Amiobi's at Motherwell. Well, that is very, very interesting. But congrats to Hearts, unfortunately. A Hearts side that added Pepe. Because, of course, he is the biggest hammer thrower there's ever been, potentially, in world football. And he's ended up at Hearts. 17 aggression. It says all you need to know, but he's won the League Cup with them. So congratulations, Pepe. That's the type of reputation of players that are being added to this league, and the reputation of the league is currently in 9th. There's been no changes as of yet after 1 year of simulation. That is something I will come back and check throughout the simulation, because I want to see how high up this leaderboard it'll get. I don't know if it'll ever get into sort of Premier League, Spanish League, Serie A, Bundesliga, but it probably will reach 5th ahead of the likes of the Portuguese League, the Eredivisie League, and I think it would take a bit longer, though, however, to get into that top echelon. But will the Saudi League ever get there? Well, this might give a good indication. After 5 years of simulation and big spending, things have gotten a little bit chaotic. Aaron Ramsdale's also here, in addition to Martinez. Ilan Meslier is at Dundee United. That good Georgian lad is here now. That's his name. I can't say it, but he's at Hibs. Gabriel Barbosa, Gabigo, is here, along with Umar Sadiq, Terem Moffi, who is pretty good, signed from Nice from Dundee. For Dundee, rather. Danny Olmo is here. Sami Chukwueze is here, brought in, well, first to Hearts from Villarreal, now Ross County. Danny Olmo's still here. Guendouzi's still here. Morton ended up in the top flight within these simulations, but the leagues have been won by Celtic, first season obviously, then it was St Mirren, then Rangers, then Hibs, then Ross County. So immediately, there's different winners every single season, and things have gotten exciting. Aberdeen aren't in the top flight anymore, so I don't see St Johnstone. There's a few others that have dropped out. And of course, the competition reputation has jumped up to, well, it's gone up one. It's taken over the Austrian League, but it's got Portugal, the Eredivisie, and Liga in its sights. I wonder what the biggest transfer fee spent has been, though. That was a real tongue twister. As we know, so far, the biggest transfer fee we've seen has been £74 million, potentially rising to 103. However, teams have gone mental. Teams have gone absolutely mental. Edson Alvarez ended up at Motherwell. Mitrovic ended up at Inverness. Andrew Omobamidele, 70 million quid from Norwich to Livingston. It's gone absolutely crazy. I don't know where to start. There's so many quality players that have ended up in the league. Rasmus Højlund ended up at Celtic. Manuel Akanji ended up at Ross County, and then they won the league together, I'm going to imagine. There's some quality players in here. Big fees being spent. Dennis Pryatt, Rob Holding, well, always attracting the highest calibre. Gini Wijnaldum pitched up at Celtic. Ryan Fraser then went from St Johnstone to Dundee, and that's only in the second season. Let's have a look at the next one. Motherwell, spending big once again. Ruben Neves who has signed to Saudi Arabia in real life, ended up at Dundee United from Wolves, because, well, that's how things work out. Unai Simon has ended up at Hibs. Moussa Diaby ended up at Rangers. Gabriel from Arsenal ended up at Hibs. This was a big spending season. Joe Gomez also at Hibs. Manuel Akanji then went from Ross County to St Mirren. Samuel Chukwumeze has been all over the shop. First joined Hearts, then Ross County. Juan Foyth is here. Ryan Ait-Nouri is here. Oh my goodness. Mickey van de Ven ended up at Aberdeen. Liverpool after him in real life. Thiago, speaking of Liverpool, ended up at St Mirren. Rodrigo Bentancur, Donny van de Beek, Japhet Tenganga. Oh my goodness. A Pedro. Goodness me. Carnage. Absolute carnage. Yuri Tielemans was at Rangers, then left to go join Arsenal, which is interesting. English clubs still taking players off Scottish sides. But for decent fees, we're finally getting good fees, and that's the main thing. Bio Hatate went to St Johnstone from Celtic. What is going on? What is going on? I apologise that this is all going to come across as very chaotic, so please take in what you can and comment down below anything mental you see that I have not mentioned, because it's a lot to take in. Celtic smashed their own transfer fee, 92 million, potentially rising to 120 million for Nicholas Jackson, who, yeah, is pretty good. That was in the 2025-26 season. We then saw the Georgian boy arrive, Dominic Calvert-Lewin's now here, Ezri Konsa's here, Gabigol, Riedel Baku was sold from Aberdeen to Real Madrid for 53 million rather. Dennis Seaman, one of the best wonder kids in the game, ended up here. Fantastic young goalkeeper at Motherwell. That's an upgrade from Trevor Carson or whoever it is they've got. He's at St Mirren. My ball knowledge clearly on show is shocking. Marco Asensio is here. Kingsley Coman is here. Ansu Fati has pitched up at Ross County. Lucas Paqueta was at Celtic, then sold to Real Madrid. Oh my word. Bomadelli was signed for 70 million by Livingston and then sold for half of that to Celtic. We're seeing teams go mental and just cutting losses for half the value after only a few years. They got relegated with him after spending 70 million quid on him. And in the latest season, Yasser Asprilla left Motherwell to go to West Ham, but Scamacca has turned up. Diogo Dalot's here. Max Aarons left Hibs to go to Man City. Anel difficult name, left Celtic to go to Liverpool. We're still seeing teams being pickpocketed by English sides, essentially. Timothy Castagna going from Aberdeen to Inverness. Wan-Bissaka turning up at Hibernian. Oh my goodness me. Nordi Mukele going from Celtic to St Mirren. There's a lot happening, ladies and gentlemen. It's carnage. Scott McTominay is at Inverness as well. You'll see it. We'll get there eventually. Geronimo Rulli was here. Mitrovic then left Inverness to go to Monaco. It's carnage. I think that's going to be summed up by the fact Billy Gilmore ended up playing in the Scottish Championship along with Ryan Kent, Ryan Fraser, Dominic Solanke. It's going mental. They have spent some big fees. St Johnstone gaining 42 million for Ayup Adine. Ryan Gold back in Scotland via Fulham for whatever reason. Ezekiel Palacios, Real Tate's pitched up. It is carnage. We are seeing fantastic players pitch up to the Championship. Ryan Christie is here. Nico Williams left Hearts in the Scottish Championship to go to Napoli. I can't keep up with any of this. This is a lot of information, and I really do apologise, but Greg Taylor's ended up going from Wraith to Ayr for nearly 10 million quid. So there is a lot going on, and I apologise for the carnage I've caused. I mean, for goodness sake, we are now getting teams in the Cinch League 1 receiving and paying over £1 million for players, including Lewis Fiorini ending up at Forfar. Highly thought of young Scottish player currently on the books at Manchester City. It's mayhem. It is absolute carnage. 7 odd million being spent or received. Jensen Weir pitched up. It didn't take a long time to jump up in fees, did it? One season from 2022 to 2023-24. And in League 2, they're also starting to spend and receive big amounts of money. and in spending over 3 million quid for Jamie Lindsay. And I don't really know what to even say about all of this. I am going to simulate to 15 years to see how crazy it does all get, but we'll have a little look to see who's won Scottish Cups, League Cups, and see how teams are now performing in Europe too. I was just looking to see who'd won the Championship in recent years. Partick Thistle, Hearts, St Johnstone and Dundee, in addition to Inverness in the first year. But I mean, for goodness sake, there's Champions League level Sean Longstaff and Jacob Murphy. And Wolverhampton goalkeeper Jose Sa, now in the Cinch Championship. Meanwhile, the League 1 and League 2 look pretty similar in terms of who's winning it. Motherwell, however, are absolutely taking over the Scottish Cup. They've won it 3 out of the last 5 years, all in the simulation. St Mirren and Ross County also picking up them. Celtic and Rangers are really starting to fall off, and the Scottish Cup reputation is now 3rd in terms of cup. It started off at 6th, below the Portuguese Cup. The Premier Sports Cup reputation also shooting up from 22nd up to 18th. It's been won by Hearts, Rangers, Hibs twice, and then Ross County. Miguel Almiron also at Morton.
Miggy, I'm a one, Miggy, I'm a one.
Oh yeah, and probably worth noting now that Scotland has 7 European places. There's 4 going into the Champions League alone. The Champions League hasn't yet been won by a Scottish club, but I'll be very interested to see if that does eventually happen. But in the latest season, Hibs have got to the round of 16 of the Champions League, losing out to Real Madrid, and that's absolutely okay, but that's the sign of where things are going with all this cash money. Motherwell were also in the round of 16 of the Europa League, knocked out by Lille. Pretty respectable. Well, not when you've spent that much on Ivan Toney, now that I think about it. But St Mirren got through the round of 16 the year previous, along with Celtic. I think they were both knocked out the quarter-final stage. They weren't. They were in the semi-final of the Europa League. Neither St Mirren got to the final and lost. And Celtic lost in the semi-final. It's carnage. And the Conference League was won by Inverness. Inverness have won the Conference League. Celtic have won it. Rangers have also won it. I don't know what to say anymore. I've lost my okay? I've lost my And now, after 15 years of simulation, I will have a look at some of the club's finances, but I thought I'll skip to this point because if I stop at 10 years, this video will be so long of it just being mental transfers, but we'll still have a little look. Ross County have become the best team in Scotland, sometimes Hibs winning it. So Ross County are the new Celtic, and Hibs are the new Rangers, which I'm sure both of them will be absolutely delighted about. And Motherwell are just lurking too. The Cinch Championship has been won by some mental clubs too. Stirling Albion, Arbroath, Forfar, Ayr, well that's not that mental, but Alloa, Kelty Hearts. It's all going bonkers. League One's pretty similar, other than the fact that Aberdeen are still in it. We have no money left. What have we done? And yeah, League 2's pretty similar too. But the Scottish Cup is generally being shared around by Ross County, Motherwell and Hibs, with Dundee United now thrown in there for good measure. And Kelty Hearts won the League Cup in the 2032-2033 season. Ross County have done it a few times. Celtic once again. Motherwell, Hibs. Kelty Hearts! The Cinch Premiership League reputation after a total of 12 billion being pumped into the league at the start of the simulation, which isn't even anywhere near what Saudi Arabia have as their resources, let's be honest. It's now up to the 5th reputation in the league. It's surpassed Liga and it's surpassed the Portuguese league, the Eredivisie, but it's still not close to the top 4. Bundesliga, Serie A, Spanish League, La Liga, don't know why I said that, and the Premier League. But this fella has just finished as top goal scorer for Hibs. He's got 17 finishing, 16 long shots, 16 passing, 17 technique. There's a lot of bright yellow in there. He's only 5'5", but he's bloody good. How much did they pay for him? From Brazil. We're getting Brazilian wonder kids, and they're doing this. Most notably, however, no Scottish team has come close to winning the Champions League. That's very much still protected by the top 4 leagues now, I suppose it is. I'll have a quick look to see if anyone's even made sort of any quarter-finals. Them are doing pretty well, but as you can see, still sort of safeguarded, although Hibs did get there by the big lot. No surprise there, is it? Hibs did win the Europa League, however. Motherwell finished second, got to the final, as did Celtic. Celtic have done it twice, actually. St Mirren have been here, as we know. Ross County have been here. We're getting there. We are getting there. And apparently all these teams are now too big to win the Conference League, because after Celtic and Rangers and Inverness then won it, they've not given a damn about it, other than St Mirren losing in the final. And I bet you they probably fell into that from the Europa League in the first place. And clubs are still spending big, and this is despite the fact I didn't even change what the prize money would be for the league in terms of where you finished. I just left things as they were. I totally forgot about it, I won't lie. But they're still spending 30, 40 million on players 15 years after the simulation. This works. Somebody gave us a load of money. 129 million going up to 139. That's the biggest I've seen so far, and that was only 2 years ago. 13 years in the simulation. 103 million Hibs to Man United. Oh, wait, was that from... We were selling players for that much, rather. We were still getting big money transfers involved. 86 million, 64 million being spent. Dennis Seaman being sold. Now. From Motherwell. Seaman and Motherwell. Goodness me. And 77 million Bayern Munich. Willie Gnonto going to Hibs for 77 million quid. It's all been happening. Even in the Championship, teams are still spending millions of pounds on players after all this time. Only last season, St Johnstone received 11 million for a player from Lille, and then spent the money. It's worked out how I expected, but it's still been a bit more mental. And to be honest, the success for all of this was way quicker than I thought. I thought it would take longer for teams to adapt. Teams in League One still spending £1 million on players, albeit just Morton, but still big transfer fees being blown around at this time. I mean, it's absolute carnage. But you know what? If I could be a part of a world where Scotland were doing this with all of their money, I would be there, because my god would it be entertaining. Likewise, hundreds of £1,000s still being thrown around in the Cinch League 2, and they didn't have nearly as much money as the top flight either, and it's a much lower league reputation. And with all this that's been going on, Hibs still have 230 million quid in the bank. They're worth 900 million. There's still so much money involved, and they're not done yet, apart from Rangers and Partick Thistle just have no cash. What the hell have they done? Ross County still loaded, no wonder they're still winning the league. St Mirren likewise. Alloa, 239 million quid in the bank. Championship side still with millions in the bank. Dumbarton have 452 million quid to their name. It's been carnage the whole time, and apparently Ross County now the biggest side in Scotland. That is no surprise whatsoever. The Premiership, a 4-star rated league. The Cinch Championship, in fact, even a 2.5-star league. Is theirs above the English Championship? Probably not. It's above the League One though, which is quite something. And I wonder if Scotland have been any good. Thomas Tuchel is now their manager. I don't know what this is, but they're 19th in the world ranking. I'm going to have a quick check to see if they've won anything. And the answer to that, in short, is no. It seems they spent all the money on transfer fees rather than investing it into the youth system and making world-class players. They didn't improve youth facilities, it would seem. I'm sure they maybe did, but not as much as they should have. Likewise, improving junior coaching and youth recruitment, which is a shame. And you'd have liked to think they would have invested in those in sort of infrastructures so they could then become good as a nation as well. Now, I'd like to apologise for how chaotic that video was. I got carried away, but as I said earlier, please do comment down below with the most mental thing you saw, whether I mentioned it or not. What was the most mental transfer? A team reaching a late stage in a cup competition? Let me know. Leave a like on the video if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you are new around here. In a few weeks, I am going to be attempting to take one of the lower teams, one of the League 2 teams, up as high as I can in a certain amount of years only in charge of the signings, essentially. So stay tuned for that. And also, if you want to have a look at this database yourself, it will be available, first link in the description. Thanks very much for tuning in. Take care.